Buongiorno a tutti. Gotcha, I don't speak Swedish. This ASMR vid will discuss some historical pitfalls in English. Every human being is interested in psychology and its history because it concerns ourselves, our behavior, and our lives in general. But before we can embark on the study of history, we have to become aware of the pitfalls that exist in the study field. History is not carved in stone. New evidence could always make us question the history we believe in now. Of course, most we know is fairly trustworthy. We just have to be aware of the fact that framing, selection, and perspective can make the history we know evolve into confusing or distorted versions of the factual happenings. Let's go and check out what can go wrong when studying the past. Pitfalls. The first pitfall I'd like to discuss is called Whig history. In this approach of historical study, the history implies progress through science. It is a teleological form, which means it describes the phenomena or happenings through the lens of their purpose and less by stating their causes. It is characterized by statements such as modern science is infallible and also superior when compared to the past. Thank God these glorious and famous scientists made the progress they did, otherwise we'd still be wiping with sticks and laughing at drawings of kittens with funny hats on walls. These theories from the past can all be easily dismissed and shouldn't be looked at ever again. These are the kind of statements that are wrong on so many levels. The theories they discuss might partially still be valuable. These scientists we know and love aren't necessarily the perfect triumphant specimens of our species. They probably made a whole bunch of mistakes along the way. Mistakes no one ever hears about. Mistakes viewed as failures and, well, as mistakes. But these mistakes could also be seen as evidence for the contrary, or as part of the journey that led us to the information we have today. This new perspective focuses more on growth and the ups and downs, which both contributed to the toilet paper and the meme sites we have now. Just like we as human beings individually learn from our mistakes, so does science have value in documenting and remembering the other dismissed or not deemed perfect evidence. Short history of the word, Whig history. The term was first used by a historian called Butterfield in 1931. He referred to the writings of the opposition of the Whig and the Tory parties in the late 17th century till the start of the 19th century in England and the UK. Because these parties, while using the past to build their arguments, fell for the pitfall we are learning about right now. To conclude, Whig history is just not nuanced enough to tell the story of the past. And science is not necessarily the best thing in the world, with only progress and success on its road. I mean, scientists also played a part in the development of weaponry, atom bombs, those pop-ups with little crosses that you can't see. When you press 1 millimeter next to it, it takes you to 5 different ad pages with at least 4 of them emitting moaning and sexual sounds while you are in public. I digress. Science is human. It makes mistakes, learns from them, and tries new stuff. Sometimes the new stuff isn't better than the old stuff. But that's okay. On to the next pitfall, baby. Presentism is the pitfall I will be discussing right about now. It is also called now for then thinking and can be seen as a form of projection. It takes recent or modern concepts and perspectives and uses them to view the past and frame it. The best possible example is whenever someone calls Achilles gay for his relationship with his comrade Patroclus. The term gay or homosexual probably wasn't used that often in that time, and if they did use a similar concept, it probably wouldn't have meant the exact same thing as it does now. I'm pretty sure, actually, that these words cannot mean the exact same thing. Being gay doesn't even mean the same thing now as it did a couple of decades ago. The context of the past changes the meaning of the word, and in the most cases, we need a lot of examples and sentences or situations before we can estimate the past definition or usage of a word. Other forms of presentism include the alluding that the past is directly responsible or very, very relevant for the present situation, or using the past to explain that our current position on certain topics is right this time. A widely used example of the latter is when historians compare la maîtrise de l'homme-machine to the more recent science of artificial intelligence, computer science, and cognitive psychology. You shouldn't say that the older directly predicted the latter, while in fact they aren't talking about the same things and use completely different frameworks of evidence to state the things they state. It's very misleading to do so, but there can still be found a form of truth in presentism, because the history we study today is also studied with the perspective and the framework of the present day. Our writings on history will inevitably be influenced by the present. Studying history will always contain a bit of perspectivism and presentism. Plus, if we wouldn't use the words and concepts we know now to delve into the past, how could we ever find out if Achilles was gay or not? The third pitfall is called the great men view, which is pretty misogynistic if you ask me. It contributes to how wrong it actually is. There are a lot of scientists who are identified or identified themselves as female who did make great contributions to all kinds of fields in science. Maybe we can call it the great human view because it states that the past is purely a result of all the great efforts humans or historical scientific personalities put in their jobs to build everything we have now. As if a summary of names and biographies of these people would tell us all we need to know about history. The essence of why the great man view is a great human pitfall is that we forget the time frame or the zeitgeist of those days, which undeniably influenced the behavior, thoughts, interests, and actions of the individuals we love to talk and hear about. Yes, these people did remarkably interesting things, but would they have done so if the whole context of the world was just slightly different? What if Pavlov didn't have access to a dog because they weren't deemed the best pets or study objects back then? Maybe he would have rung some bells at a bird. I don't know if birds salivate, but it would have at least changed the study as we know it today. There's a whole bunch of what-ifs that we shouldn't look too much into because what happened, happened, but we still have to be aware of the other factors that contributed to the sciences we study today. The social influences of the past should not be forgotten. I'll use one more what-if to solidify its importance. What if Darwin wasn't born? Would we not have heard about theories on evolution or survival of the fittest? What if he became a dentist and filled holes in the streets in his spare time? Oops, that was two what-ifs. Anywho, the point is that, yes, the heroes of the past we know are to be given the credit they deserve, but they still are human beings like we all are, capable of everything and nothing in the same day. There's no need to worship them or see them as mystical, mythical creatures of unbelievable intelligence. And to kick it all off, there's a small final pitfall to discuss and end the video. Simplification is simply the oversimplification of the past. Our views of the past are often only parts and streamlined versions of the things that actually happened. A whole lot of stuff deemed unimportant gets left out to keep the texts or sources from becoming too pompous. We mustn't forget that summaries of summaries of summaries have the tendency to change or add or leave out parts of the information. Just like a game of telephone or Chinese whispers, which we probably shouldn't be calling Chinese whispers if you ask me, so let's call it telephone. One way to partly combat this is by checking multiple sources and comparing them. Another is accepting that we can never truly have the complete experience of the past because we simply weren't there to let the information seep into our senses. This works on more levels than one. So remember, Elton John is a much better gay person than Achilles ever was. I mean, Achilles directly influenced what we see as gay now, but his way of being gay was just plain wrong now that Elton John has shown us true gaiety. Anyway, these were the most common pitfalls of history or studying history. Thanks for your attention, and remember, tomorrow is another day.